Hey Nicholas, can you hold this lid for me? Good morning. My name is Jennifer. I'm going to be making a hard Italian Parmesan-style cheese. I'm using this book. I've made Parmesan from this book before. Haven't had the greatest success, mostly because of aging issues, I think. I am trying some new ideas and not going to say it all quite yet because I haven't fully developed them in my head. But what I'm doing today is I am making an 8-gallon batch, culturing it with clabber. It's a pretty quick cheese, gets in the press, and then my plan is to age it for a year. I probably won't ever wait a year. I'm not good at waiting. One thing I'm aware of is our cows right now, the cream level on the milk is little. It's hardly anything. We are in the middle of winter and they're not getting that much food. So the milk is pretty much kind of skim milk already. I don't know if you can even see, like it's right here. It's probably full to the top. So probably this much right here is cream, but that's nothing. That's nothing. Like normally you get like a ton of cream. So we're pretty much using skim milk. I have 2 gallons of milk that's already been chilled from the past couple days, and now my husband's bringing in fresh milk right now. So I have heard that milk that has been chilled and has had the cream separate, that cream gets lost when you're making cheese. It doesn't ever fully incorporate. You're supposed to use fresh milk full fat if you want all the fat to stay in the cheese. I don't know if that's true, but I'm kind of hedging my bets by doing half chilled milk and half fresh milk and hoping that gets a higher fat content. I have no evidence either way. So the milk is at 88, 90 degrees right now. It doesn't have to be exactly 90, just close. And this is the clabber from yesterday. It is sweet smelling. You can see a little bit of the cream on the top. That is kind of showing you how skinny our milk is right now. Gonna take a little bit of this to culture a little bit of more milk. Drop it in. And this gets a wee shake. It just gets set back on the counter. Oops, I guess I should let it. Geez, the lid apparently didn't work. And that sits on the counter till tomorrow. And now this culture gets shaken up and dumped into the hot milk. So you're just shaking it up to get it so it incorporates easily into the milk. There's no wait time between adding the culture and the rennet. Basically, it's all in a flow. I'm skipping the calcium chloride and I'm just going to add the rennet. So it's 1.5 teaspoons of rennet diluted in a little bit of tap water for 8 gallons of milk. So I often like tap the pot first to see, it looks a little bit jiggly. Well, it's setting up. It's a little slumpy. I mean, that's a clean break technically, but it seems a little bit soft. I'm gonna give it another 10 minutes. You can see the whey is pooling. I think it's pretty good, but here, let's just check to make sure. Yeah, it's a little bit cleaner. I don't know if you can see, but when I cut it now, you can get the ridges of the knife on the cheese. So that's pretty clear. What I'm supposed to do right now is cut the curd with a whisk into 1/4-inch cubes, but over the course of 10 minutes. I'm gonna start stirring for just about 5 minutes. The curds feel extremely light and fluffy and soft. They feel like blobs of liquid that have set up, like there's no rind on them at all. If I find big ones like that, I just mush, mush, mush. It's broken down quite a bit. They look kind of fragmented and shattered, but they're not. This is just how it is. So what I'm gonna do is turn the heat on low and set the timer for 30 minutes. For the cooking process, you raise them up to 108 degrees over the course of 30 minutes, stir them for about 5 minutes there, raise them up to 124 degrees over the next 30 minutes. Basically, you wanna be cooking them for about an hour and stirring them while you're raising the heat. You wanna get them up to 124 degrees, more or less. I'm not gonna worry about it too much. I'm just gonna try to get it done in an hour. From there, into the press. They're a lot smaller. They're getting a little bit firmer, but they're still very, very tender. It feels like there's not much in here. This is one of the reasons I don't like doing high temperature cheeses like Parmesan, because it feels so unproductive, but it's fine. Anyway, it is only right around 94 degrees. I still have to go to 108 in the next 12 minutes. I am going to crank this heat up just slightly. Raw milk cheeses tend to cook faster and don't need quite as long cook time or stir time. So I want to make sure that I'm not stretching this out longer than I need to, so I don't have a dry cheese. My hand has been tingling for about 5 minutes, so I think it usually starts to burn around 105 degrees, so we'll see where we're at, 104.5. I'm gonna let this keep going and bring it up to 124-ish. I'm turning the timer for another 30 minutes, and let's do a quick test. These feel firmer, but they're still pretty tender. They don't squish that much. They're staying together. They're not crumbling apart super easily, but they do come apart. It doesn't feel like it's matting on the bottom. It stays pretty loose. So here's my big ass paddle. It was knitting a little bit. Can you see right there? So Just kind of breaking those apart. We'll keep going, aiming up to 124 now. There are clumps coming up here sometimes. I'm kind of breaking them apart. This is heavy to stir, not because this itself is heavy, but because the drag of it in the liquid makes it hard on your arm. I'm cranking this up just a little bit more. I'm gonna be stirring with attention. Okay, there we are, 124. This has been cooking for 55 minutes and the heat was pretty high towards the end. Notice how the whey is rather greenish yellow. It doesn't look creamy. Is it squeaky? Mildly, but not very much. These are hot. Squeeze them, and look how the whey that comes off is super clear. And then they're like this, and I don't think they crumble apart super easily. They're pretty much knitting. They feel rubbery, they feel boingy. That one's squeaky. I'm gonna let this sit for just a few minutes. Wow, okay. Ah, it's really hot. We will be washing the floor. Okay, stop, switch containers. Okay. First off, I'm gonna wet my cheesecloth in the warm whey. I do not need my plastic mesh sides because this cheese is gonna be small. Look how steamy hot that is. And just plopping it in. And I'm kind of breaking it a little bit so that it fits into the corners because otherwise it will press not straight. I bet this is gonna be a 5-pound cheese. That's gonna be my guess. But maybe we can get a bunch of ricotta, which makes it feel a little bit more worthwhile. Oh yeah, totally squeaky now. So the instructions for this are kind of just press until light whey, clear whey comes out. You don't want to get a creamy whey ever. And then you turn it in 15 minutes, increase pressure, flip it and press it for another 30. And at that point, it should be pretty much knitted together, or at least no more whey should be coming out. It's supposed to be in the press for 6 to 12 hours. So if I have this cheese in the press at 12 o'clock noon, that means at supper time, I'm getting it out. That is right around 40 pounds, which I have to keep pressing it down as it goes. Such a small cheese. It's always so depressing to me. It makes so much more sense to do a 12-gallon batch. If only I had a big enough kettle. It feels rather dry. I'm gonna press it at medium pressure for about 30 minutes. 4 gallons of whey. I'm attempting to make some ricotta with this. This is at 180 degrees. Up until now it's totally clear, but you can see how much ricotta is forming there. So I think this will actually do pretty good. Just gonna pour some in. What was that, a 1/3 cup maybe? Just gonna give it a good stir so it gets all the way mixed through. Oh, look at those clumps coming up. This past weekend, I made the most incredible ricotta cheesecake. It was so creamy. It wasn't at all grainy. Heat is off. Gonna rest this for about 20 minutes. Ooh, that's not bad. It's not a ton, but it's something. It's kind of frustrating because all these little pieces just kind of disappear. If you stir, a bit more will come up. Yeah, look at all that stuff coming up. That's not collectible. It's kind of like egg whites that just kind of slip through. Technically, you could put this through a cheesecloth and drain it, but it would take a long time to drain. And then it sticks to the cheesecloth. I just don't have much patience. I will let this sit for just a few more minutes and see if we get any more that I can skim. Yeah, not really. So see, the problem with this is that it sticks to the thingamabob. So I don't know how worthwhile that is. I guess if I just pour it really quickly, maybe it won't stick as much. Knitting together better. It is still quite warm. So now I'm going to ramp it up. The instructions say increase the pressure as needed to close the rind. See those gaps in there? Close those up. So I'm going to increase the pressure a good amount, close to 70 or 80. Really get it hard. Is there whey coming out a little bit, but not too much. It's knitting together. It has compressed. I'm actually gonna say it's good enough. I'm gonna brine this. Let's weigh it real quick. I guess this is gonna be 5 pounds. It actually might be closer to 6. 5 pounds, 14.9 ounces. I am so good. What's 12 times 6?
I don't know. 60.
No.
12
times 6, 72.
72, obviously.
72 hours is supposed to be brined, which is 24, 48, 72. So it's 3 days. This will not be brined for 3 days. 12 hours per pound is just a little bit excessive, methinks. Boop. So this is the ricotta from the Parmesan. I'm gonna weigh this and see what we have. 1/2 pound in that one and 1.46. Not quite 1.5 pounds, but definitely nothing to sneeze at. So that cheese was, what was it, almost 6 pounds? And this is 1.25 pounds. I'm gonna get to make a cheesecake now, yay. So right here, ouch, my leg hurts, is the clabber parm. It's getting like a little bit of mold on the top. This fridge is like at 55 degrees, and it feels like a clammy handshake. I don't know if I'm drying it out too much. I may decide to do something different. These are just sitting here. There's Romanos and Parms and Budercases and all these things are right here. These are the 3 Parmesans that I've cultured differently. They were all done in the same week. This is Parmesan number 1, which was done with clabber-cultured. Parmesan number 2, which was done with yogurt. And Parmesan number 3 was done with freeze-dried cultures. The reason for the difference in molds is probably what they are exposed to in the cheese cave and don't have anything to do with the cultures. That's my best guess. I am just going to wash it down with this light brine. And back down to the cheese cave where it is being left open. That blue mold is like not coming off. So it's still blue. I don't know what else to do. It smells like basement. These are all Romanos and Parmesans. This is the Romano, and these 3 are the Parmesans. They are all doing weird things. This one is the clabber one. It is super moldy. In my cheese cave down in the basement, it smells like basement. In the cave, it didn't used to smell this way, but it smells like this yucky blue basement mold, and I'm super afraid that it's going to permeate the cheeses. So what I am doing right now is I'm going to clean these up, and then I'm going to put them in these tubs and maybe kind of stack 2 on top of each other and see if that will reduce that yucky smell and make these more secure. This is the clabber one. It feels tacky. Here is a little bit of salt brine, light salt brine solution. I'm gonna add some apple cider vinegar, wash this out a bit, get some of the worst of it off. Not too terribly concerned, and then I'm gonna scrub this cheese down. So there, that feels so much better. See how grody that mat is? I found a board, put the Parm clabber on there. And then this is Parm number 2. That's gonna sit directly on top, and I just washed this one down. Hopefully the 2 of those together will not get moldy. I'm gonna leave this lid cracked, and I'm gonna put these in the downstairs bedroom because it's cool in there, and I want these to not dry out, but I also want them to not be in that moldy, smelly fridge. This is the Parmesan with the clabber culture. I'm gonna see if I can keep that mold off of it. It's not cracking and it's not getting moldy. I think it's okay. It feels waxy, slightly sticky, but not really. And I'm not worrying about it because not a lot of powder is coming off or anything. Cheeses always smell a little bit like artificial candle wax to me when they start aging like this. These are smelling a bit like lipase. This section is smelling like lipase, which I find interesting. I just wiped off that blue mold that fuzz was growing on it. You see that? How it's like pencil erasers. I just rubbed over it, so that's gone now. There we go. I'm gonna keep this one in the back. That's Parmesan 1. That's the one I'm filming. And then, do you see the tape here on the side? So I had Parmesan 2 was taped right there. I'm actually gonna put this on the board so I don't lose it. This is not the one I'm filming. I'm gonna set that on the back there. So they are now stacked in that space so that I can put this gooey weird alpine tome that needs a little bit of attention right there. That's a lot of cheese. Holy heck. So the Parmesan that's been in here is doing fine, I think. It's not cracking. There's a little bit of blue there, but it mostly smells waxy, buttery, cheesy, a little bit of lipase smell. I am going to be vac packing this one as well as the other 2 Parms up here. I need space in the cheese cave. It's getting warm outside. I would put these downstairs and leave them open, except that's where they tend to get moldy, basement mold. The other reason I am okay vac packing this Parm is because I have been opening cheeses that are quite old, like 2 years old, 2.5, 3 years old, and they are aging very well in the bag in terms of getting dry and crumbly and that kind of that Parmesan look. I'm hopeful that with a solid 3 months, 4 months of aging with the natural rind, that will have started them getting some of that rind, that flavor, that texture, and then over time in the bags it will get better. Looks okay on this side. It's kind of dry. There's not much on it. And then this side has that bit of mold. So I'm just wiping that off before I vac pack it. I am also concerned when I'm doing Parmesans, hard cheeses that are long aged and they're so small. That means that the rind as it ages is getting thicker and thicker and thicker and you have less and less cheese. This is the other reason that I'm only doing a partial natural rind and then I'm backpacking. And I'm just coming down to flip all the Parms. They just sit in the back of the cave here and I don't do anything to them. They are getting gray. I don't know if you can see how gray they are, but we're just pretending it's fine. The third one is definitely the weirdest. Ooh, maybe I should rewrap that. It's getting some brine in the packaging. We'll let it go. I don't really want to deal with it now. Maybe someday when I'm feeling adventurous. You can see they all kind of look the same. They're kind of goopy in here. I'm not feeling too positive about these at this point. It's time to taste this clabber-cultured Parmesan cheese. Whenever you see liquid, you're supposed to take it out, dry it off, and repackage it, but I obviously did not bother. Got a weird smell. Lipase. almost want to say like weedy. Not horrible. There's not that much liquid in the bag. That actually doesn't look too bad, all things considered. It smells pretty good. It doesn't feel dry, but it feels very firm. Wow, it's delicious. It has so much flavor. It is really rich and buttery and creamy. It's dry. It tastes a bit dry, but not dry in a bad way. Dry in like a, it's just dry. I'm getting close to the rind and it's harder. I'm gonna taste the rind. Don't really want to, but I'm going to for you. That tastes a little bit acidic. It's not bad. Not bad at all, actually. It's almost like an Asiago. The flavor is excellent. The texture is just a little bit, It's much, much, much better than I thought it would be. It's meaty. That's what it is. It tastes meaty. Oh my goodness. The calf out there is doing sprints back and forth across the field. And she just goes, boom. Oh, here she comes. She's slowing down now. She's going a lot faster. There she goes. She's so cute. I'm just gonna scrape this off like that. And it's really soft, it comes right off. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like, this is not horrible, gross rind like some of my cheeses are. Just a little bit ick. And then I'm gonna backpack these. That's all I'm gonna do. All done. It is less slimy on the outside. It's actually the rind I think is just fine in terms of goopiness. So this is much smoother. It smells a little less flavorful than the other one. Tastes good, harder, drier, rubberier. I don't think it has quite the richness of flavor as the clabber-cultured one. This is the one I cultured with freeze-dried culture, and it is the mushiest one in the bag. Like you can see, it's squishing right there. It has started to really deteriorate in the last couple months. It has the most moisture and the most grossness, and it also looks like it has bee linens because it's a bit orange. This smells like smoke. It smells like chocolate. It smells like coffee. Wow, that's a totally different smell. This is really deteriorating. Now it smells more like lipacey and regular. There we go. Whew. Okay, well this looks more interesting actually. That's even grittier than the other two, but it's also more tender. The texture actually isn't bad. And the flavor is sharper, I think. Maybe not quite as meaty. I don't know, let me try the three together. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Clabber, yogurt, sukasu freeze-dried culture. So for the first one, definitely tougher, drier, harder. Texture is not great. A little bit of sharper flavor. I mean, flavor is good, but number 2, toughest of all of them. Flavor's pretty good. Grittier, but more tender, and flavor is also good. The one I like least is probably the yogurt one. It's too tough. That's probably a make issue. All three cultures work. They're all more or less the same cheese.